Hey guys, welcome to Slurv. I'm Steve, and this is Cash Game Cornerstones for Friday, May 20th. We got kind of an interesting slate today with a lot of plays to like and a lot of plays to not feel quite as confident in as I like for cash games. Let's get right down to it. Pitching today, there's one name that's going to jump out at everybody, Jake Arrieta, for good reason. However, he is facing the Giants, so there is a little bit of cause for not concern, but caution. Excuse me, caution there. But he's only 12.8 on DK, which for Arrieta is a pretty good price, and 12.2 on FanDuel, also fair. He's probably the top option for cash games overall. The Giants don't strike out a whole lot, but he does have a good record against them in the past. So, I'm not worried about it. I'm not 100% on him paying off that large price tag, but in cash, as long as he gives us a nice stable floor, we're okay with that. Another option that you might consider, especially on FanDuel, is Aaron Nola. I expect him to be pretty popular today going up against Atlanta, though there's some dissent in that among the other experts. We're having quite a talk about Aaron Nola in the chat earlier. You missed out between Max and I. But regardless of what I said about Aaron Nola versus Quintana there, I still think he's a pretty solid cash play. On DK at 11.0, that's expensive. That's hard to get him in, I think. On FanDuel at 9.0, I think that's easy. If you need a discount from Arrieta, which you might, that's certainly a reasonable one to take. I don't like Iwakuma today. I've seen that he's kind of potentially popular. He's cheap, and he's going against the Padres, but I am not on that for cash, at least, certainly. So on DK, you're probably going to need some slightly cheaper guys to pair one of these two expensive dudes with. And on that note, I like Cole going up against Colorado. They are not as threatening away from home, away from Coors. And Cole is only 8.7 on DK, he's 10.2 on FanDuel. Forget about him. We don't need two pitchers there. And I also like, there's a little bit of risk there going against Colorado. But anytime you're dipping down in salary a bit, there's a little bit of risk. To put it in perspective a bit, Colby Lewis is somehow 9.2 today, which just I need a hug after that, honestly. So Cole for 8.7, I'd be insulted if I were Jarrett Cole. They were pricing me below Colby Lewis. Same goes for Carlos Martinez, who also has not the greatest of matchups in Arizona, but he's 8.3 on DK, 9.0 on FanDuel. Again, I would just go to Nola there if I were you, or Arrieta. But as a second pitcher on DK, I think Martinez deserves a lot of attention. You always got to be worried about Goldschmidt and Lamb, some of the other Arizona guys. I mean, Chris Herman, my favorite guy ever. So maybe that's a reason not to play him if you want to play Chris Herman. But he's definitely at least worth the same consideration as Jarrett Cole. They both carry some risk, but they both, I think it's mitigated. I think it's mitigated by their price and the fact that we need a second pitcher, and there's not really that many good options. If you can somehow fit Nola and Arrieta, that would be great. But if you can, come on Slurv chat and let me know how, because I'd like to do that too. On Wednesday in the expert chat, I called for a home run from Jason Castro, and I got one. I was really sure about that. He was just hitting the ball super hard. His advanced stats all pointed that way. I'm not as certain of the home run today, but I still like Jason Castro going up against Colby Lewis, who I mentioned. He's a guy I like to pick on, even though he's not been too bad so far this year, which I assume is why his price is as ridiculously high for him as it is. But I still like taking shots at him, especially when we're talking about catchers for 3.2 on DK, 3.1 on FanDuel, a little harder to justify with some of the other prices. Primarily Yan Gomez going up against Buchholz. Gomez is 3.5 on FanDuel on DK, so he's the pay-up option there. But he's only 2.7 on FanDuel, which makes him the bargain option there of the guys I have to recommend. Doesn't make any sense, but hey, that's what it is. Of course, I saved the best for last. Chris Herman, assuming he gets in the lineup. He does go against Carlos Martinez, who I also like for today. So if you're playing Martinez, obviously don't play Herman. 3.0 on DK makes him the bargain option there, and 3.2 on FanDuel makes him the most expensive of the three. So, take that for what you will. If Herman's in the lineup, I imagine I'll have him in there. But I do love Castro too, so it's not 100%, but 95%. Let me say also that I was wrong about Carlos Santana yesterday. I did not think that he deserved as much love as he was getting, and I was wrong as he responded with 2 home runs. Sorry for doubting you, Carlos. Somehow your price has come down still, and you're only 3.8 on DK and 2.9 on FanDuel. There's really not a lot of first base options that I'm in love with today. On FanDuel, I can't imagine not locking him in as your cash game first baseman. On DK, probably the same. But if you want a pay-up option, it's a little bit more risk here because I'm going to recommend David Ortiz. He's going against Kluber. But Kluber has been really bad against lefties this season. Yes, it is a small sample size, and he's been a lot better against lefties earlier in his career. But something like a 17% strikeout rate right now this season against lefties. We'll see if that continues. The Red Sox have been really hot. Ortiz is a guy with the power to take it all the way anytime. 4.6 on DK, like I said, he's the pay-up option, and 4.2 on FanDuel. Depends where you're going at pitcher, really, and some of the other bats, but those are really the only 2 guys that I feel comfortable recommending. Let me say this, in general, the Mets are underpriced on FanDuel. Kind of grossly underpriced on FanDuel, actually. They're going up against Willie Peralta, who is not a good pitcher, and a guy that I like to pick on a lot. Neil Walker is only 2.7. That's crazy. I think I will have him there. Although there's several other good options. The biggest one being Robinson Cano against Straley. Keep an eye on this game because this is one of the early weather concerns, so we don't really know what's going to happen there. Cano is 5.4 on DK, so he's really expensive. I mean, if you're paying up there, you're paying down all the other positions. It's only 4.1 on FanDuel, so a much more of a bargain there, much more opportunity to get him in lineups. Of course, you got Neil Walker tempting you there. I don't even hate Neil Walker on DK at 3.7, honestly. It's a good matchup. The only thing I hate is that he's so much more expensive. Kipnis I was on yesterday, and he totally let me down with like a walk or something. But he gets Buchholz today. 4.4 on DK, kind of your top mid-top range option. 3.7 on FanDuel makes him the second most expensive after Cano that I'm recommending. So the Indians have just been crazy hot, and I expect them to be really popular. Kipnis might be a little under-owned because he was like 30-40% yesterday, and he let all of us down. So there's a chance of getting him at somewhat reduced ownership today, which could be good, at least compared to the other Indians. And I think they set up in a really nice spot. On DK, though, if you need, if you need some value on DK, Derek Dietrich against Tanner Rourke, who's not all that great, not all that terrible either, but he's definitely a guy that we can target with a second baseman at 3.3 anyway. 3.4 on DK for Dietrich, I'm not interested there. Neil Walker all the way. But on DK, he's your value guy. I'm really kind of going all in against Lewis here because I like Luis Valbuena. And I don't say that very often. But he actually grades out really well in my model. And he has like a really pretty good history against Colby Lewis. And he's 3.2 on DK, 2.7 on FanDuel. On DK, there's no other bargain option that I like at all. On FanDuel, we got the underpriced Mets and David Wright, who's been kind of cold, but I think that a breakout, again, is coming for him. I think there's going to be some home runs in his future, and that could definitely happen against Willie Peralta. He's 3.9 on DK, 2.7 on FanDuel. I mean, that huge disparity just tells you that someone is wrong, and usually DK is better at pricing than FanDuel is. Going back to my V names, and also, well, this time guys that have been hot lately, Danny Valencia is just killing it. You know, I'm not calling for a 3-home run game or anything, but he gets CC Sabathia. He's kind of good at crushing lefties, so CC Sabathia is an aging lefty whose pitches are slowing down. Definitely a lot of opportunity there for Valencia. At only 3.6 on DK, he's close to a bargain option. You know, right there with Balbuena, and probably a good bit safer. 3.3 on DK or on FanDuel, meh. But I really like the pay-up option here, especially on DK. Chris Bryant, 4.4 against Jake Peavy. Good matchup there for Bryant. He's 4.4 also on FanDuel, which makes him pretty hard to roster. But, you know, he's still a nice safe option there. Did I mention I was picking on Lewis? Because right now I'm going back there with Carlos Correa. Great price on DK, 4.3. He's 4.5 on FanDuel. I don't know about that, but on FanDuel I definitely like Brad Miller going up against Anibal Sanchez. Anibal is a guy that I often like to target, although he hasn't really worked out for me much this season. But he is a fly ball guy, and Brad Miller's been hitting the ball really hard. The Rays were hot just a few days ago, and people have probably forgotten about that, so you can probably get him at pretty low ownership. 2.9 on FanDuel, 3.4 on DK. He's still the bargain option there, but, you know, much friendlier price on FanDuel. And then also sticking with the Indians, we got Lindor against Buchholz. 4.1 on DK, 3.7 on FanDuel, sliding right into that mid-priced slot in between the other two. I think between those three guys, there's good options to choose from at shortstop today. Nowhere do the prices seem to be more different site to site than in the outfield, so I got some site-specific guys here. Starting off on DK with Nomar Mazara. I don't hate him on FanDuel at 3.1, but at 2.9 on DK against Lance McCullers, I really like him. He just crushes righties. He's been a little bit colder after his hot start to the season, but not really. Not a Tyler White style drop off. On FanDuel, I really like Seth Smith. Again, watch the weather in this game against Straley. It's 3.7 on DK, but only 2.9 on FanDuel. Love that. I mentioned Mets being underpriced, and Granderson is no exception. He's only 3.0 on FanDuel, 4.2 on DK. Don't love that price at all. And also on FanDuel for an expensive Met, but still way cheap. Cespedes is 4.9 on DK, too much. 4.1 on FanDuel, love it. But there is one Met that we can get in cash on DK, and he happens to be my favorite, Michael Conforto. 3.8 on DK, 3.4 on FanDuel. It's equivalent pricing. He's a little bit priced, well, I mean, not really pricey on FanDuel. I don't mind him there either, but, you know, Granderson for 3.0, why not? You know, I mean, it's a coin flip at best there. But on DK, 3.8 there gives you a good chance to get some exposure to the Mets game, which I think the Mets will score a lot of runs today. And then for a expensive option, but relatively cheap on DK is Jose Bautista against Duffy, who is a pretty good young pitcher and probably be a much better pitcher in the near future, next season or two. But I think there's still plenty of opportunity for Bautista to get some nice fantasy points off of him. It's 4.5 on DK, much less attractive, 4.3 on FanDuel. You got Cespedes right there for even cheaper. And the one guy that I like kind of equally on both sites, going up against Anibal, is Corey Dickerson, another lefty against Anibal who struggles with them and is a fly ball pitcher. And hopefully the Rays still have some of their heat left over from earlier in the week or last week, somewhere in there. It all runs together. 3.5 on DK, 3.0 on FanDuel. like his pricing on both sites. It's right about there in the equivalent range. Make sure you come on by today for the expert chat at 5 p.m. Eastern. We go 5 to 6, and me and Adam and Max will break down the games with you guys giving us questions or whatever in the expert chat. And also I will be doing my daily Dong Finder picks during the expert chat there. There won't be a Dong Finder video today, but check by the Slurve tailgate, and I'll post the top plays and then talk about them and some more plays during the video. Thanks for watching. This has been Cash Game Cornerstones for MLB, Friday, May 20th. Come on by the expert chat later, slurve.com. I'm Steve Repsold. Good luck, guys.